Mass Effect 3 continues, and I guess all I have to say at this point is that I'm happy we finally got to the point where Legion is around. We're getting to the Geth side
Okay,
of
so you're at the
things.
best part of Mass Effect 3 then.
I've been waiting for the Geth. I've been waiting to find out what's been happening with them, and we're finally getting those answers. And it's satisfying because it's still like so. It's satisfying because it's still like the most interesting part, but there definitely is, yeah, this thing where I have to kind of accept that I'm like the promise of what of how good Sovereign was and won in that conversation is not happening, right?
It's not. No, it's not.
That's not happening, right? The
You
Reapers
deal with them too much.
So sorry, that part's, and I'm like, fuck. I was so hype on that. Okay. So what do we have, right? And you've got just this ever-present problem, and like it won't deliver on that. So what else is cool? Everything to do with the Krogans and the Genophage is cool, and obviously the Morden story, and then conversely everything to do with the Geth and the Quarians and that whole bit is super fascinating.
Oh, dude,
as
it's
well.
awesome. Like
And
all the complaints about Mass Effect 3, of which there are many, none of them are about the Geth Quarian conflict and Tuchanka.
yeah.
A plus all the way down.
So it's nice that like the A storyline is kind of letting me down because of that. It's still okay. It's still going, but I was hoping for more in that regard. But where that kind of didn't live up to it, these B storylines are,
Yeah, Mass Effect is a series defined by its B storylines.
It's interesting. And then, of course, now there's also this bit where, like, I think, too, that, like, when something kind of talks up, I'm always, like, inclined to, like, imagine, I'm always inclined to imagine, like, races that, like, defy my understanding in a lot of ways, right? I'm a big fan of that in fiction, so I get really hyped when someone kind of starts to go in that direction. And so obviously that's kind of where my Reaper feeling is, and I've already a lot of people I already know people are giving me shit over my own expectations or whatever, and it's like, okay, yeah, fine, if that's not where you are, that's
set
okay.
Those expectations up.
I know. I just anyway, like I feel like so with the Geth now, a little bit of that happened again, because the description that you have of the Geth when you meet Legion is really cool, because he's like, hey, those crazy ones you've been fighting are just the psychos we don't deal with. They're the heretics,
Yeah, they're
right?
evangelists.
And you haven't met me, you haven't met us. Us normal Geth are actually just chilling in the cut, right? We're
rebuilding the planet.
We're back in the Attican Traverse with our numbers in, our programs in the trillions, platforms in the billions, and like we are out here basically like they could have outnumbered the creators at any time if they wanted to, right? Yeah. So there was that idea was kind of planted that it's like, oh, the Geth were just like peacefully staying out of this while the heretics were going crazy, and the Geth are kind of just watching what's happening. But anytime they wanted to, they could have done something, but they're, and then you get to kind of find out more. So that the last idea we had was that like, oh yeah, the biggest like race, like the biggest faction, the most powerful faction is actually the Geth who don't want to fight, who are just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
And so, and the Quarians are obviously struggling on their flotilla and trying to piece together what's left of their group, and they're hanging out, but they're doing it. And then in 3 now, the whole situation changes because the introduction of new technology means that the Geth are put with their back against the wall, and they have to, take a deal so to speak, with the old machines in order to fight back against this stupid Quarian push. And it's like, okay, that I get how we get to that place from a strictly the tech has changed kind of point of view. The overall feeling that they were just like this step above everyone else in the galaxy, like I was hoping that would kind of play into how this battle against, well, we haven't seen the whole thing yet, right, play out. But I guess it felt like, oh, the Quarians that are struggling and kind of trying to have this dumb holy war are actually fighting back this kind of super hyped up background force now. And I was like, oh, that's a bit of a bummer, I guess. But I do understand. The reasons make total sense. But I guess the feeling was not like what I expected, right? And it turns out that apparently that the writer for the Geth in 2 planned for them to be this actual insane top level fucking faction that was like flinging black holes around and like had a whole other level of space travel tech beyond everyone else.
Yeah, there's a lot that was clearly planned and then left on the floor.
And then so they kind of went with this instead, and like that was a whole other thing. Now the power levels would have been definitely a problem to deal with when we had to introduce them into the situation in 3. So I get that didn't happen, but I know that I'm like, okay, if that's the feeling they were gonna go for, they gave that feeling off of that Legion conversation in 2, you know, like. Yeah. The feeling Legion gave off in 2 is like, oh yeah, hey man, we don't want to, but if we wanted to, you know?
I love the conflict between the Geth and the Quarian Mass Effect. I think it's my favorite part of the entire fiction from like a writing perspective, because it's like, hey man, the Quarians have the coolest design of any alien race in the entire
Quarians, you said? You cut out.
Oh, sorry. The Quarians have the coolest fictional design of any of the races you deal with in the fiction. They all have they it's a race that has hidden top class voice actors for all of its characters. Like the guy who played Kane in Legacy of Kain is one of the admirals. There's a I believe she's a Greek lady that's a famous actress that I can't remember her name. But those two are always arguing that A+ voice acting from all of them.
Oh yeah, incredible.
They're cool. Their ship is cool. Their fucking society is cool. The one that wants to be your girlfriend is the best one, and every single fucking thing out of their mouth is the dumbest fucking thing you've ever heard. Every single fucking time they open their mouth, it's the worst thing in the series.
So they've been the wrongest, right, ever of everybody so far. And it was kind of amazing how we're operating in a world where you guys are dumb and wrong, and you're making the situation worse because you can't fucking look at the bigger picture for 2 seconds. And then you go back and you start looking through the memories, and you're like,
oh, they're even wronger than I
thought. They're even wronger than before.
Just a quick correction. The actress I'm describing, apparently her name is Shore Agdashlu, and she's Egyptian.
Okay, awesome. I cannot believe...
You go through the fucking video logs, and you're like, they're even fucking stupider than I thought.
They're 4 times wronger than ever. Somehow it was even worse, you know? Like, the little bit of benefit of the doubt that you give them is that they're stupid and wrong, but they're acting based on fear, right? Yeah. They're having these reactions of like, we're afraid of what happens if this gets out of control. We're afraid of what happens if we acknowledge the Geth, and any of that. And like, everything is a panic-based, right? So you kind of
your complaint, right? Your complaint is like, oh, it's there. Oh, sorry. Now I'm being informed she's Iranian. I don't know this actress. Look her up. I don't know.
Okay.
But Your issue of like, oh, now the Reapers are hitting them with their Reaper juice to make them stronger and evil. And it's like, that is kind of a disappointment because you have to shoot a bunch of them. But they're only like that because the Quarians attacked them for no reason.
Now's the time, guys. Now we gotta go take back the motherland.
There's a galactic threat from a genocidal group of different robots that are attacking us, and you thought today was the good day to start your totally separate war that everyone knows you're going to lose.
And then you land, and it's fucking Arizona. And you're like,
yeah,
this is what it is? We're fighting over the fucking desert, Nevada, you know? Like, so... It's wild, but you get to go back in time and see them be extra wrong. And the thing of like, you're dumb and stupid, but you're acting out of fear is like, I can like pity you in a way. Like you're just panicking and running in circles, like, you know what I mean? But when you go back and you're like, oh no, actually, here's the part where the fellow Quarians were standing up for the robots and saying, guys, stop it. And then you were like, let's kill our fellow Quarians and shove them in the mass grave too. And you're like, oh my God, you're completely insane.
That was the turning point for me. That was the part like, the robot, and everyone was afraid of the robot uprising. And then you find out like, oh no, wait, the Quarians that are running their government also genocided the Quarians that didn't want to kill the robots.
Right? So you have to take that, and this is the Mass Effect, like the clarifying point of like, you have the moral dilemma, and then you can walk that thread until it becomes like literal, until it's just split into a very clear dual path, right? It always does this. And here you go, well, let's say this group refused to ever acknowledge robots as properly living sentient creatures.
Sure.
In order to enact your hatred of them and disgust, you have to now murder your peers, who, no matter what you think, are your peers. And now, is it worth it to carry out this bloodshed, you know, or fucking fuel shed, while stepping over the bodies of your fellow Quarian? And they're like, yes, it's super worth it.
They always painted it like a existential threat, right? But it was actually like a secular argument that like ended up escalating to like civil war plus robots.
Right. Yeah. And like the numbers were never like in the majority, but it was still enough that it's like, oh, they're now just cleansing out the ghettos, so to speak, you know? And like the robots are standing behind while a Quarian is getting shot standing in between them, you know? And you're like, you're so much wronger.
Because you're like, wow, I really like you guys. But you're wrong. Every time you say anything, you're wrong. What you're doing is wrong. Why you're doing it is wrong. So, every side quest that I ever did with you guys, you were wrong.
So
except for Cal Rieger.
And Queequeg, or not Queequeg, Quib. And so you're just kind of operating on this thing of like, man, I guess, Tally, you're in charge now, and you're the one I know, so you should be the fucking leader of your people, I hope, but...
Because I can influence you with my cock.
But holy shit, your people suck. Every time. Every time forever. Yeah, it's quite wild to go back in time and make a wrong extra fucking wrong. But that part was still pretty interesting. And then it also was quite clarifying too. It was not clarifying. I was almost like, I don't know, I didn't expect anything, but we got out of that, and then you have one of the few like Javik interactions that pops up where Javik is just arguing over AI, right? And he's just like, yeah, robots suck, can't be trusted. And he just provides no arguments whatsoever. It's just like, they suck, they were bad in my time, and they're not real and this is blasphemy. And then he would just move the goalposts every time a counterpoint was raised.
Funny.
And it's just grandpa arguments, and you're like, oh, the philosopher warrior is actually just really like he's just the warrior. There's no philosopher there.
I think it's really smart. I think everything they did with Javik is really smart because, like, dude, you were talking about Sovereign and like what you thought Sovereign was going to be, right? And how it could never live up to it. And like same thing with the Protheans, right? Like, oh man, they were so advanced. And it's like Javik is both out of universe and in universe a massive fucking disappointment. Like he is like all the parts where Liara's like, oh, what can you tell me? Nothing. I have nothing for you.
Out of universe, I like the idea of don't meet your heroes a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's great, right? The mystical ingenious race of benevolent soldiers that fought against, the last remaining threat, heroic to the end, yada yada.
Yeah, and so who do you get to talk to? You get to talk to the Prothean equivalent of James Trapezius Dinosaur Vega.
Sure. Yes, exactly. Who's just going, hey,
like the dumbest meathead in their entire fucking society is the one you get to talk to.
At the end of the fucking war, born into it, might makes right, and literally, why does the larger not simply eat the other friends? Like straight up, like, I don't understand what the problem is. Insubordination, out the airlock. Why are we having this conversation?
Dude, it rules. It fucking rules. It rules that he sucks. Like somebody said, no, Javik is based. Like, yeah, no, the fact that Javik sucks is the best way it could have gone.
Nothing special about the Protheans here at all. If they were different at the beginning of the war, whatever we got here is just like dumb fucking throw all our strength at it. That's all that matters. Warrior pride, So yeah, he's having an argument with, what to him is a goldfish, but the goldfish is like lapping him rhetorically. Yeah. And he's just like, no, but they can never be like, they will never evolve. And they're like, yeah, but we upgrade and we regulate, and that's how they actually do change with time.
Edie in this instance?
He's arguing with Edie, yeah. And like he's just like, oh no, it is all he's got, and it's one of those looping arguments. But I'm like, man, Javik, you fucking idiot, Grandpa, go to bed. Like it was so he had so much nothing to say at the end of that, so I'm just kind of like, okay, this is how it's being played out, and it's good, but simultaneously just like, God, I thought you might have something deep down inside, like that fucking line, stand in the dust of a trillion dead races and ask their ghosts if honor means anything. You like that? You say that because you fucking have you've got a dissertation behind that thought,
Yeah, no, actually, he's been workshopping that in the pod for 10,000 years.
You want to think he's been meditating and then comes out and he's got that fucking banger of a line, and it's like, well, that was all he had, and then there was no follow-up, actually. But yeah, so...
Like he'll look at the Quarians and be like, "Oh, the Asari." Like, you used to be.
We're not. We're not there yet.
What? What are you talking? No, I mean, like, you talked to him at some point about the crew.
Oh, okay.
And at some point he describes like, oh, I think it was the Hanar. He's like, we used to eat the Hanar or something like that.
Oh, okay. Like, yeah, there's been
right?
there's been 5 versions of that. Yes.
Right.
Yes,
like they let you guys into space, huh? Like, kind of thing. And then the response is always like, yeah, but we have a society now and we have all this stuff. And he just goes, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. You used to eat flies to the Solarians,
It's like you just wanted to be an asshole. You had no follow-up to anything anyone was going to say to you.
I remember when you were a fucking ugly creature at the zoo. Okay.
Well, I'm not now, dipshit. Now you're the kid in the zoo.
Okay. Can you help me with some cover fire or no? Like, what are we doing here? You know? Yeah. Anyway, good times to that.